Hello, my name is Evelien Colijn and I'm going to unbox and test and demonstrate the Fome portable press. It's made in Italy. The box, when it arrived, was very compact and light. It surprised me. I would recommend to keep the box. I ordered it with the little felt. You can opt out of that. There's the handle, there's the guide, and here's the press. It looks well built, nice materials. The cylinder is a little bit smaller than I expected, but what I like is the roughened lower cylinder. You can also really set the height of the press cylinder. That turns very smoothly. It's not very heavy. A hex key, and this is the press bed. A very nice size. Those are holes to attach the press to. I chose to use a board on which I fastened two L hooks that I can attach to my press with a bolt. And here, ideally, I would use C-clamps to clamp it to my table. I can clamp the wooden board onto my working table. I wanted to test the press immediately, so I didn't bother to buy C-clamps. So first, feeding through the metal press bed with the felt, I'm going to put some pressure on it and do a few dry runs with plates. Let's first attach the cranking handle with the hex key. The setup is pretty easy. I read in the reviews that a very secure attachment to your working surface was a prerequisite. So let's see how it works with the press only attached on one side. I wanted to test a large size. It's a nearly letter size zinc plate of a quite thick gauge and a smaller square copper plate that's a lot thinner. First, I'm going to see how the transport is when I put some pressure. In order to test whether the pressure is even, you can actually measure there what the size is, the length of the gap, and see if it's the same measurement on both sides. Then you can be sure that your cylinder is at equal height. Now my zinc plate is under there. I feel that the cylinder gets stuck against the edge and it's not able to go over the hump. I release a little bit of pressure and see if I can transport it over the plate, but it still gets stuck. And as you can see, it pushes the plate off the press bed while the press bed moves forward. Let's have a look what happens with a thinner plate. Of course, you need to have a decent pressure to make a good print, but let's start with reasonable but not very high pressure. I feel the edge of the plate. No, it's not working. See, it's pushing the press bed forward and still getting stuck. That is disappointing. The press looked great, but if I can't work it over the edge of even a thin plate, it's not going to be very useful. With the roughened lower cylinder, I was wondering, I have a wooden board. What if I use a wooden board instead of the metal press bed, and it probably will grip better on the wood? I repeat the exercise and look, that runs pretty well. I'm not worried about a board this size that it's not from metal. And look, with at least the same amount of pressure I said earlier, it is running through with the zinc plate. Now I'm trying the copper plate that I have inked with Charbonnel Aqua ink, just quickly on some soaked scrap paper. And let's see what impression I get. I run the board through. As you can see, I put a fair amount of pressure, a little bit too much. Yes, now it's running through. Press is hiccuping a bit because it's not secure there with the clamp. And that is a reasonable print. It's a bit light. I'm losing a little bit of detail that didn't press well, but it's a good start. Now let's see the larger, thicker plate. I assume this would be a maximum size that you would be able to print on this press. Again, quickly inked with water-based Charbonnel on paper that didn't soak very long. Again, I see I should probably secure the press better to the board. And I'm getting a good print, but it did miss some line detail I know is there. Maybe it was a too large size to handle, so now I'm trying a smaller inked plate. And how about if I run it twice through the press? And that is a very good print. Now I'm going to repeat, and I've inked all the plates with oil-based black charbonnel. I have secured the little press better to my board, so I'm hoping I can actually up the pressure and crank the press bed through. If I would decide to keep on working with wood, I can actually make a longer board. When I have fed everything through, it's not going to fall off at the edge. And here you can see that with the black ink, again, not a bad print. A little bit light, but that could also be that it's a first inked plate. Usually it doesn't give the best print. Now this is the difficult one. I'm not worried that a wooden board is going to warp too much, and if it does, it's easy to replace. The cylinder is so light that it will not warp it easily. As you can see, I have to crank it through with quite some force. The press remains secure on the board with the new clamp. And yes, I am getting a good impression. This time, all the details I know the plate has have printed well. So with some babying and trying things, you can actually make this little press work for printing etchings. The verdict of this review: if you want to use this press to make your own professional work that's not too large scale, I would recommend you would spend at least double or triple the money for a sturdier mini press. But for demo, workshop and school purposes, with a little bit of babying along and learning what works and doesn't work, it is a very affordable and handy press.